How do you get from the lower class to the middle class? Or how do you get from the middle class to the upper class? After all, that's the American dream, right? To be upwardly mobile, to start out with nothing but through hard work and determination, by persevering through hard times, practicing frugality and creativity, rising above your circumstances to make a name for yourself. That is what America is known for. But that doesn't happen overnight, and keeping track of where we are compared to others is kind of difficult. So we use broad terms like the middle class to describe a certain segment of people. But people don't necessarily stay in classes. There's an old saying that change is the only constant, and I think that's true with classes of people. The media loves to highlight the shrinking middle class with lots of negativity, but I see things differently. Let me explain. Here we can see that the percentage of Americans that would be considered middle class has dropped. Since 1971, the middle class has shrunk from 61% of adults down to 50% of adults. That's an 11% decrease, but 7% of that has increased and 4% has decreased. If you're in that 7%, you're pretty happy. If you're in the 4%, it doesn't mean it will stay that way, and I have statistics to prove it. In the best-selling book, The Millionaire Next Door, Thomas Stanley's research revealed that about 80% of millionaires were first-generation affluent. This means that they had started in the lower class or middle class and climbed their way up. Although that book was written in 1996, they're supporting data from more recent studies. Ramsey Solution did the largest study of its kind with well over 10,000 millionaires surveyed, and they found that 80% of millionaires invested in their company's 401k plan. One of the top 5 career choices was a teacher, and that 79% of millionaires did not receive any inheritance at all from their parents or other family members. People are building wealth every day, and migration into another class is happening before our eyes. From a personal finance perspective, the term middle class is a useless designation. It's broad, overly generic, and often used by the media and politicians to pander for votes. I think the politicians and news media use it because it gives off this working man, average Joe vibe. If we're in the middle class, we're not pretentious and easy to hate like that wealthy snob down the street that flies by in his Mercedes, running over old ladies and clubbing baby seals in his spare time. And we're not on the street corner begging during the day and spending our nights living in a van down by the river. So we must be middle class. This is all tongue-in-cheek here because I hate class warfare. I do want to highlight how terms like lower, middle, and upper class evoke very powerful images in our mind. Those images may not necessarily reflect reality. Sure, it's easy and convenient to use a broad term to simply convey an idea, but from a personal finance perspective, let's see if we can do a little bit better. Okay, so let's define what lower, middle, or upper class actually means. Pew defines the middle class as those earning from 2/3 to double the median household income, with incomes ranging from about $48,500 to $145,500. Lower income households brought in less than that $48,500, and upper income was greater than $145,500. Pew also factored in data for 3, 4, and 5-person households and adjusted for the cost of living in cities. So this range right here presents the first problem that I see. Rounding up, we're talking about the difference of nearly 100,000 between the lower range and the upper range of the middle class. It's no wonder that more than half of the US population is considered middle class. This is about as helpful as stating that half of the population is male or that about half of the population is under the age of 40. We don't really gain anything from this. I think this works better if we focus on quintiles, which is just a fancy word for breaking things down from 0 to 100 into 5 ranges of 20% each. Starting with the first quintile, you have an average income of about $15,000. This would be considered poverty here in the US. I can relate to this. My first job in high school was waiting tables. People in this range are likely starting out in an entry-level job. Maybe you're working full-time or working several part-time jobs. You might be in school or working as an apprentice. This comes out to about $14 an hour. This isn't enough to support a family, so we're probably single. It would be difficult to save up for a down payment or to qualify for a mortgage here. So if we're not living at home with our parents, we're probably renting a room or an apartment, and maybe we bought a cheap used car, or maybe we're walking or biking to work. It's in this stage where it's extremely important to start building the foundation by not getting into debt and to start developing skills that are valued in the marketplace. At this point, we have no discretionary income, so it's ramen noodles and bean burritos. If we have the cushion of living at home, we might have a bit more discretionary income, but if we're on our own, inflation is absolutely crushing us. Our income is low, and every tank of gas or trip to the grocery store hurts. There's no shame in any of this. It's my beginnings, and probably the vast majority of you watching this started out in a similar manner. And you know how you get out of the lower class? You hit the like button and subscribe to my channel so you can learn to get out of debt, save, and invest and build wealth. Because of our low income and limited assets, the lower class median net worth is about $6,000. At this point, it's probably just some money in our bank account and your first car, offset by whatever debt you might have started to accumulate. This second quintile with an annual income of about $41,000 is what I'd call the lower middle class. At this point, we've probably worked in our job a few years and have maybe got a raise or two. Maybe we've been promoted beyond entry-level work after accumulating some skills. We might have finished our apprenticeship or graduated college and started working full-time in a field that we think might be a good fit, or maybe just the first field that would hire us. We're up to almost $20 an hour, so we might have upgraded our car to either a nicer used car, or possibly we've taken out a loan and bought a new car. By now we might be married and combining our incomes so that even if we're working 2 entry-level jobs, we're making ends meet. We might be able to squirrel away a little money for a down payment, and at this point we could possibly consider buying a modest home in a year or two if we play our cards right and can come up with a down payment. With this lower income, we'll have to make sure we buy in an affordable neighborhood and maybe have to commute further to work. We still don't have a lot of discretionary income at this point, so going out to eat or going on a vacation is a luxury. Inflation is extremely hard on our budget at this point. If we don't have any emergency fund, one small hiccup can turn our financial outlook bleak. We're probably not living at home anymore, so the cost of living is absolutely squeezing us. We're still working on laying the foundation of our personal finances, and it's critical that we don't allow debt to creep in to help us bridge the gap between where we are to where we want our lifestyle to be. We've accumulated a little bit of assets, and so our median net worth at this point is around $44,000. This third quintile is what I think is probably the true middle class. Not only is it mathematically accurate at the middle 20%, but it's where we can see that American dream start to take shape. If we're in this range, we're making an average of nearly $71,000, which comes out to about $34 an hour. It could also be a combined income, as these are household numbers. At this point, we're getting fairly established in our field. It might even be a second or third job as we've moved around for better pay and benefits. We're probably on our second or third car, either upgrading them because we have a little bit more discretionary income, or just having to upgrade because of a growing family. We might be married and have children. We're continuing to hone our skill level, and hopefully we have some steady employment. At this income, we should be able to save a down payment for a house, or we're probably already in a house and starting to build equity. Because we have some additional discretionary income, we start to get serious about saving for retirement. So if we have some equity in the house, maybe we were able to pay off a car and set aside an emergency fund, and we started contributing to our retirement. We can see that we were able to increase our net worth to about $105,000. It is at this point that we can start to feel and see some margin in our finances. Assuming we haven't weighed ourselves down with massive debt for our cars, our mortgage, student loans, and credit cards, we might not be stressing the occasional splurge within reason. This is a huge difference. It's even been studied with numerous surveys out there saying that somewhere around 70 to 75,000 people's day-to-day contentment levels off. They're obviously happy with making more money, but the daily stress and pressure that comes with being in the first or second quintile kind of evaporates. I think this makes sense though, because we were able to breathe a little bit and all of our daily needs are met, and we even have a little left over for some of our wants. The fourth quintile is what I would call the upper middle class. If we're in this fourth quintile, our average household salary is a bit over $115,000. We're building on that American dream. We're paying down the equity on our home, or maybe we've sold our home, made a decent chunk of change, and we're able to upgrade our home because we need more room for the kids or our hobbies. We've paid our car off by this time, and we're increasing our retirement account contributions. At this point, our mindset has shifted significantly. We have margin, we're not stressing the little things, and we're able to take a decent vacation. If we want to go out to eat, we can do that and not stress that we won't be able to pay the bills or contribute to our retirement. We're no longer in this zero-sum game where every decision is motivated or controlled by money. We're starting to be able to be more generous with those around us. Picking up the tab for our friends and family isn't a stressor. Inflation is a pain, but at this point, we have enough margin where it's not going to break us. Our net worth has nearly doubled the median net worth of the middle class, and it's now $202,000. It's the American dream and then some. Okay, this is the fifth and last quintile where we transition from upper middle class to wealthy. We see a big spike in average income all the way up to $270,000. The only thing stopping us from self-indulgence is our own self-control. If we want something nice, we can buy it and pay cash for it. If we want to travel, we can. We can have more expensive hobbies, and surprise expenses have become more of a nuisance than something that keeps us up at night. We might even take pleasure in being able to give and spend money on others. Because we've been able to pay down significant amounts of debt on our home, our retirement accounts are compounding, and we have savings, and our cars either have a ton of equity or are paid off completely. At this point, our median net worth is up over $600,000. We've arrived at financial independence. Now, before you write in the comments about how wrong these numbers are for your area, I get it. Someone who is making, say, 100 grand in New York and San Francisco is not the same as 100 grand in Birmingham, Alabama. And somebody making 250,000 a year and a net worth of $1 million is not on the same financial level as someone on the cover of Forbes magazine. I get it. But for the purposes of this topic, we have to be able to break things down into neat chunks. If you live in San Francisco, you'll probably have to double or triple these numbers. The takeaway here is that class warfare and class envy are poison. It's admirable to want to increase your quality of life and your standard of living. It's happening constantly. It's done by learning new skills valued by the marketplace, increasing your education, and not even necessarily a formal education, saving and investing and living below your means. Hey folks, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you spending time with me and supporting my channel. Check out some of my other videos about investing, personal finance, and getting out of debt. Until next time.